Have you ever woken up feeling inexplicably drained, as if the night's rest brought no renewal, and wondered what invisible forces might be affecting your sleep? This question isn't merely philosophical. It strikes at the heart of an ancient spiritual wisdom that Padre Pio and countless spiritual traditions across the world have understood for centuries. The holy mystic, known for his profound connection to the divine and his ability to perceive the unseen realm, was adamant about one seemingly simple practice: never allowing shoes near the bed while sleeping. This wasn't a matter of mere organization or cleanliness, but a profound spiritual protection that many have forgotten in our modern disconnected world. Before I reveal this powerful teaching that has transformed thousands of lives, you must understand something vital about Padre Pio's insight. He wasn't simply a man of prayer. He was a spiritual warrior who understood the battlefield of energies that surround us daily. With his stigmata and ability to bilocate, Padre Pio demonstrated an extraordinary connection to spiritual realities most of us only dimly perceive. His teachings weren't casual suggestions but rather urgent spiritual prescriptions for those seeking peace, protection, and divine favor. When he spoke about the significance of where we place our footwear, he was unveiling a spiritual principle that extends far beyond mere household organization. The sacred space of your bedroom, where your soul releases itself to the vulnerable state of sleep each night, deserves special protection. Think about it. You spend approximately 1/3 of your life in this state of surrender, where your spiritual guards are naturally lowered. Padre Pio understood that this time of spiritual vulnerability requires intentional boundaries. The shoes on your feet travel through countless environments daily, collecting not just physical dirt but spiritual residues from every place you visit. Streets filled with suffering, buildings housing conflict, ground that has absorbed human pain. All these energies cling to your footwear like invisible hitchhikers, waiting for an opportunity to transfer their influence into your personal sanctuary. Your shoes are not merely functional items, they are spiritual vectors, silent collectors of the energies you encounter throughout your day. Each step you take outside your home brings your footwear into contact with places holding their own spiritual imprints. Hospitals where pain concentrates, offices where stress accumulates, streets where countless troubled souls have walked before you. Padre Pio, with his heightened spiritual sensitivity, could see what remains invisible to most: the subtle energetic particles that adhere to objects, especially those that make direct contact with the ground. The earth itself absorbs the emotional and spiritual residue of human experience, and your shoes become unwitting carriers of this energetic information. The spiritual world operates on principles as consistent as gravity, though far less visible to our physical eyes. Just as you wouldn't eat food contaminated with harmful bacteria you cannot see, Padre Pio urged his followers not to allow their sleeping spaces to be contaminated by the invisible energies carried on their shoes. These energies don't simply remain static, they radiate, expand, and seek attachment to other forms of energy. During sleep, when your spiritual body is naturally more receptive and your conscious defenses are lowered, these negative imprints find it easier to transfer their influence. Your dream state, meant to be a time of divine communion and spiritual renewal, instead becomes a battlefield where foreign energetic patterns can disrupt your connection to higher guidance. This ancient wisdom explains why many traditional cultures, from Japanese households to Middle Eastern families to Native American communities, instinctively separate footwear from living spaces. These traditions weren't born from arbitrary rules, but from generations of spiritual observation and experience. Padre Pio, despite living in a modern era, preserved this sacred knowledge that many spiritual masters across different faiths have recognized: that the objects we surround ourselves with, particularly during vulnerable states like sleep, significantly impact our spiritual well-being. The shoes that have walked through the world's troubles should never be permitted to rest near the sacred altar of your sleep. Your bed, where divine messages are received and your spirit communes with higher realms. The quality of your sleep is not merely a physical phenomenon, but a deeply spiritual experience. When you place shoes near your bed, the accumulated energies they carry begin to interact with your own energetic field during the night. You might notice symptoms that science struggles to explain: waking up feeling as though you haven't slept at all, experiencing unusual anxiety before bed, or having dreams filled with chaotic journeys or unfamiliar places. These are not coincidences, but spiritual responses to the disruptive energies your shoes have brought into your sacred space. Padre Pio observed that many who came to him complaining of restless nights were unknowingly contaminating their sleep sanctuary with objects carrying heavy energetic burdens, most commonly, their shoes. This disruption extends beyond just feeling tired. It impacts your spiritual receptivity throughout your waking hours. Have you noticed days when prayers feel mechanical, when divine guidance seems distant, or when your intuition feels clouded? These spiritual disconnections often begin with compromised sleep, where instead of divine restoration, your spirit contends with foreign energies that drain rather than replenish. The feet, in spiritual traditions worldwide, are considered powerful energy points, gateways where energies enter and exit the body. Your shoes maintain energetic connections to every place they've been, and when placed near your sleeping form, these connections become pathways through which discordant energies can flow toward your receptive dreaming mind. Tonight, I invite you to make a simple yet profound change that could transform your spiritual well-being. If you believe this teaching can bless your life as it has blessed thousands of Padre Pio's devotees, write in the comments, "I am ready for this blessing." Then, share this video with 3 people whose spiritual journey matters to you. By spreading this wisdom, you become a channel of Padre Pio's protective guidance in a world desperately needing spiritual light. Remember, the smallest actions often carry the greatest spiritual power, and this simple change in where you place your shoes could be the key that unlocks a new level of divine protection over your sleep and your home. The connection between your shoes and your prosperity is not merely superstition, but a spiritual principle that Padre Pio understood profoundly. When negative energies accumulate in your personal space, especially where you sleep, they create what spiritual masters call energetic blockages, invisible barriers that actually prevent blessings from flowing freely into your life. Think of prosperity as a river of divine abundance meant to flow toward you. When your sacred spaces become contaminated with foreign energies, particularly those carried on shoes that have traversed countless troubled locations, that river encounters a dam, forcing blessings to divert away from your life. Have you ever felt that opportunities keep slipping through your fingers? That financial stability remains just out of reach? Or that your efforts never seem to yield their deserved rewards? The spiritual contamination of your sleeping space could be a significant factor. Your bedroom represents far more than just a physical location in your home. It is the spiritual heart of your personal territory, where your subconscious mind is most receptive to divine inspiration and guidance. Throughout history, bedrooms were considered sacred chambers where angels would communicate through dreams, and where the soul would receive divine downloads of wisdom, creativity, and direction. Joseph received his warning to flee with Mary and Jesus in a dream. Jacob witnessed the ladder to heaven while sleeping. Countless saints, including Padre Pio himself, reported divine visitations during night hours. When you allow shoes near your bed, you essentially place worldly interference in the very space where heaven seeks to communicate with you. The subtle energies carried on your footwear create static in the divine frequency, making it harder for prosperity-generating inspirations to reach your receptive mind. This spiritual principle operates through 3 distinct mechanisms that Padre Pio often explained to those who sought his counsel. First, shoes carry the spiritual dust of lack and limitation from environments where struggle dominates, places where many troubled souls have walked before you. Second, footwear creates what Padre Pio called energetic anchors to those troubled locations, essentially establishing spiritual corridors between your sacred sleeping space and places of worldly difficulty. Third, and perhaps most significantly, the placement of shoes near your bed sends a subconscious message to the universe that you are comfortable mixing sacred and profane energies, that you haven't fully committed to creating a sanctuary for divine abundance. The universe, responding to this spiritual signal, hesitates to channel its fullest blessings into a space that hasn't been properly prepared and protected. The unexplained irritability you sometimes feel upon waking, that sense of heaviness that seems to have no clear cause, may be directly connected to the presence of shoes near your bed. Padre Pio observed that many who came to him complaining of persistent negative emotions were unknowingly sleeping beside objects that carried disruptive spiritual energies. Your shoes, which press against ground that has absorbed countless human experiences throughout the day, become repositories for emotional residues that don't belong to you. When these foreign emotional imprints hover near your sleeping form, your empathic spirit, particularly receptive during sleep, begins to process these emotions as if they were your own. You wake feeling anxious without a reason, irritated without provocation, or weighted with sadness that doesn't connect to your actual life circumstances. This spiritual transference works through the principle that Padre Pio called energetic osmosis, the natural tendency of energies to move from areas of higher concentration to areas of lower concentration. Your shoes, having accumulated concentrated packets of worldly stress, tension, and spiritual contamination throughout the day, naturally release these energies into the surrounding environment. During sleep, when your personal energetic field expands and becomes more permeable, these released energies find easy access to your spiritual system. Your subtle body, designed to recharge with divine energy during rest, instead becomes a processing plant for foreign emotional patterns. The result is spiritual exhaustion rather than renewal. You wake feeling as though you've been working all night rather than resting. The most concerning aspect of this spiritual dynamic is its cumulative effect. A single night with shoes near your bed might cause minimal disruption. But when this becomes a habitual practice, the energetic contamination compounds. Padre Pio noted that many chronic spiritual and emotional conditions have their roots in seemingly insignificant daily habits that, over time, create significant spiritual imbalances. The subtle irritability gradually intensifies into chronic stress. Occasional sleep disruption evolves into persistent insomnia. Mild spiritual disconnection deepens into a profound sense of divine absence. All from something as seemingly innocent as allowing your shoes to rest near your bed. This is why Padre Pio was so insistent on this teaching. He could see, with his spiritually illuminated vision, the long-term consequences of habits most would consider inconsequential. Your bedroom represents a spiritual territory that requires intentional protection. It is your personal sanctuary for renewal, divine communion, and spiritual healing. Padre Pio understood that each home contains what spiritual traditions call power spots, locations where the veil between physical and spiritual realms thins, where divine energies can more easily flow into human experience. Your bed occupies perhaps the most significant power spot in your entire home, as it's where you spend the longest continuous periods in a receptive state. When you allow shoes, carriers of worldly energies, to remain in this sacred territory, you essentially invite competing influences into the very space meant for divine restoration. It's similar to trying to tune a radio to receive a specific frequency while simultaneously introducing static from multiple competing stations. The prosperity you seek, whether financial abundance, relational harmony, physical well-being, or spiritual growth, flows most freely into environments that maintain proper spiritual boundaries. This principle appears across diverse spiritual traditions. The Jewish concept of keeping kosher living spaces, the Asian practice of feng shui, the Christian tradition of blessing homes, the Hindu ritual of purifying living areas, all recognize that spiritual cleanliness attracts divine favor. Padre Pio, with his remarkable spiritual sensitivity, could perceive how prosperity literally changed direction when encountering spaces contaminated with foreign energies. He would often tell his spiritual children, "The angels carrying your blessings cannot enter rooms filled with worldly clutter." Your shoes, having traveled through countless environments not aligned with divine harmony, bring subtle spiritual clutter into your most sacred space. This spiritual principle manifests through a threefold process that Padre Pio described to those seeking to increase prosperity in their lives. First, shoes create what he called energy leaks, small spiritual punctures through which your personal resources of vitality, creativity, and manifesting power slowly drain away during vulnerable sleep hours. Second, the worldly energies shoes carry establish what Padre Pio termed resonance conflicts, dissonant vibrations that interfere with the frequency of abundance you're trying to attune to in your life. Third, shoes near your bed send a spiritual signal of divided priorities, suggesting to the universe that you're not fully committed to creating a sanctuary aligned with divine order. The universe, which operates on precise spiritual laws, responds accordingly by directing its fullest prosperity towards spaces that maintain proper energetic boundaries. This is why such a seemingly small adjustment, keeping shoes away from your sleeping area, can trigger such profound shifts in your prosperity flow. The ideal locations for your shoes require thoughtful consideration, as Padre Pio provided specific guidance on this matter to his spiritual children. The garage represents an optimal transition zone, a buffer space between the outside world and your inner sanctuary. This location honors the spiritual principle of graduated sanctity, where spaces closer to the center of your home carry higher levels of protection and sacred energy. By storing shoes in the garage, you create a clear energetic boundary, preventing worldly residues from penetrating deeper into your living environment. If you live in an apartment without a garage, a designated area near the entrance serves the same spiritual function, creating that crucial energetic barrier between external chaos and internal harmony. A yard or porch serves as another appropriate location, aligning with the spiritual wisdom that shoes belong in spaces still connected to the earth. Padre Pio often explained that footwear maintains energetic cords to the ground they've traversed, invisible spiritual connections that continue to draw energy patterns from those locations. When shoes remain in outdoor areas, these energetic cords don't extend into your inner sanctuary. These outdoor spaces allow shoes to naturally discharge accumulated energies back into the earth, which has a remarkable capacity for transmuting and neutralizing discordant vibrations. This principle explains why many cultures instinctively remove shoes before entering homes. They're honoring an ancient spiritual understanding about energetic contamination and protection. The most crucial spiritual principle involves creating what Padre Pio called sacred thresholds, intentional separation points between different energetic zones in your living space. Your home should function as a series of increasingly sacred chambers, with your bedroom representing the inner sanctum, the most protected and spiritually aligned space. Shoes should remain in the outermost zone, never crossing the thresholds into areas designated for spiritual renewal. This arrangement isn't about physical cleanliness alone, but about maintaining clear energetic boundaries. When you implement this practice, keeping shoes in appropriate transition spaces far from your bedroom, you're essentially establishing a spiritual filtration system, ensuring that only harmonious energies reach your most vulnerable spaces. This simple yet profound adjustment realigns your home with divine order, creating the conditions where prosperity, protection, and peace can flow unimpeded. The profound restoration of your sleep sanctuary begins with the simple yet spiritually significant act of removing all footwear from your bedroom tonight. Don't postpone this adjustment with thoughts like, "I'll reorganize this weekend," or "It doesn't matter for just one more night." Padre Pio emphasized the spiritual principle of immediacy, that the moment divine wisdom is received, immediate action opens special channels of blessing. Tonight, before you lay your head to rest, take 5 minutes to gather any shoes near your bed and relocate them to their proper place outside your sleeping sanctuary. This seemingly small gesture sends a powerful spiritual signal that you're realigning your personal space with divine order, creating the conditions for profound renewal to begin. As you remove each pair of shoes from your bedroom, you might consider implementing a practice Padre Pio often recommended to his spiritual children. Silently acknowledge the transition with a simple prayer. As I remove these shoes, I release all negative energies they have carried. I reclaim this sacred space for divine restoration and heavenly protection. This intentional declaration activates what spiritual traditions call the power of conscious threshold keeping. The principle that boundaries maintained with awareness carry special spiritual potency. Your bedroom deserves this level of intentional protection, as it's where your spirit is most receptive to both harmful and helpful influences. By mindfully removing shoes from this space, you're not just rearranging objects. You're establishing a spiritual declaration of sovereignty over your most sacred territory. The transformation this simple change creates often unfolds in 3 distinct phases, according to those who have applied Padre Pio's teaching. In the first few days, many report a subtle yet noticeable lightening of the bedroom's atmosphere, an ineffable sense that the air itself has become clearer and more conducive to deep rest. Within the first week, dreams typically become more peaceful and coherent, less fraught with chaotic journeys through unfamiliar territories. By the 3rd week, the full blessing often manifests as significantly improved sleep quality, greater emotional balance upon waking, and a heightened sense of spiritual protection throughout the night. Some even report receiving profound spiritual insights during sleep, divine guidance that had been blocked by the disruptive energies their shoes had previously introduced into their sacred sleep space. The wisdom Padre Pio shared about keeping shoes away from your bed connects to a much larger spiritual principle, that every object in your environment either enhances or diminishes your connection to divine light. Your shoes, while necessary for navigating the physical world, serve as primary collectors of worldly energies that don't align with your highest spiritual good. By establishing proper boundaries for where these items belong, you create what spiritual traditions call energetic coherence, a harmonious alignment between your physical surroundings and your spiritual aspirations. This alignment doesn't require elaborate rituals or expensive changes. It simply asks for mindful attention to the spiritual implications of everyday object placement. The profound transformation many experience from this one adjustment often inspires them to examine other aspects of their living space with newfound spiritual awareness. This teaching from Padre Pio represents what he called a spiritual keystone, a seemingly small practice that supports an entire structure of divine protection. When you honor this guidance about your shoes, you demonstrate to the spiritual realm your commitment to creating sacred space in your life. This commitment activates what Padre Pio described as the law of spiritual multiplication, where one faithful act of alignment triggers cascading blessings in multiple areas of life. Many who have applied this teaching report not only improved sleep but enhanced prosperity, clearer spiritual guidance, and a general sense of being more divinely protected throughout their daily activities. The spiritual world responds generously to even small gestures of alignment with divine wisdom, especially when those gestures involve your most intimate spaces. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep in a bedroom freed from the spiritual interference of shoes, remember that you're participating in an ancient wisdom practiced by countless spiritual masters across traditions. This isn't merely about Padre Pio's individual preference, it's about reconnecting with a universal spiritual principle that modern living has obscured. As you experience the profound peace that comes from sleeping in a properly protected sanctuary, share this blessing with others who might be unknowingly compromising their spiritual well-being. The simplest teachings often carry the most transformative power, and this guidance about shoes near your bed may be exactly the spiritual key someone in your life has been searching for. Don't keep this wisdom to yourself. Become a channel through which Padre Pio's protective guidance continues to bless our troubled world, one sacred bedroom at a time.